On the defensive side of the ball, obviously Kings of the Jungle podcast, you can get on Apple and Spotify. So, if you're listening to this on YouTube, which we will post to YouTube, you can look at that too. But the defensive side of the ball is interesting because one of the things that I look at from the defensive side of the ball is a lot of people say the secondary is the weakness. And if you look at the safeties, it might be the weakness. Tracy Walker is obviously going to start, but Deshaun Elliott could be a guy who could be starting next to Tracy Walker. Maybe Melo Famu gets it to safety. There's a lot of avenues that we have not yet to discover. The secondary is a major question mark. I mean, you look at Amani, who is coming, he's come back. He's going to be playing well. He played well last year, had a lot of picks, a lot of interceptions. Jeff Okuda's coming back. A.J. Parker, Jerry Jacobs eventually will be back. You look at the Detroit Lions secondary, it's a very, very questionable unit. There's a lot of things that could go right, and there's a lot of things that could go wrong with the secondary. And if you look at the Detroit Lions and the secondary, that's the issue. That's the main part that you want to look at for the Detroit Lions secondary. Can Jerry Jacobs, when he comes back, can he look the same as he looked last year? Can A.J. Parker improve? Can a guy like Jeff Okuda look suitable on the defense? Can he even be a starter? That's one of the things I'm looking at. Because if you can get a starter out of a guy like Jeff Okuda, and you have Amani on the other side, you have Mike Hughes in the slot. Mike Hughes in the slot is a major win because Mike Hughes was one of the best cornerbacks in the slot last year. So if you're the Detroit Lions, look for the secondary. Look for guys who could potentially take that next step up. The secondary is a major worry for me. But I think the defensive line will really help that out. And when we get to the defensive line, there's nothing but praise for the defensive line because I really do think the defensive line could be a legit unit this year. When you look at the linebackers, this is an area of concern for me because, yes, you got Malcolm Rodriguez, you got Derek Barnes. You're looking for Derek Barnes to take the next step up. You look at Chris Board, who they got from Baltimore. He looks like a talented player who could play. It's just, what does this unit look like? Alex Anzalone's back. Jared Davis is back. Obviously, everyone knows who Jared Davis is. He was a former first-round pick of the Detroit Lions. Julian Okwara is listed as a linebacker. Anthony Pittman, Josh Woods. These are guys who are on the linebacking core. If there's anyone I'm looking out for, it's James Houston. He is a rookie out of Jackson State University. I think that he's going to be used in several different ways. If you're looking for a guy who could potentially be a kind of a hidden stud, look for James Houston because James Houston has all the intangibles. When I talked to a scout, he literally said James Houston kind of reminds him of a versatile linebacker who can get to the quarterback, and he can be used as a rusher, but he would be a really good blitz linebacker. And in the NFL, you need a blitz linebacker. A blitz linebacker is crucial. There's a lot of linebackers in the NFL, but there's a lot of them that really don't know how to run a blitz really, really well. And when you look at the Detroit Lions, last year was the issue. They had a lot of linebacking core issues. And Jamie Collins, in the beginning of the year, with his nonchalant, not showing up and not trying, was an issue. And Dan Campbell really didn't like that. When you talked about Aaron Glenn, he wants a hard-hitting defense. He wants a defense that hits hard. If you look at a guy who hits hard and makes all the tackles, that's Malcolm Rodriguez. I'm looking for Malcolm Rodriguez to make a little bit of a step up because I think he could be a really good linebacker in the NFL. Just give him the opportunity. Hopefully he takes it. Obviously, Derek Barnes didn't take it last year, but he can take it this training camp. And if you're Derek Barnes, it's a big year. Dan Campbell said it when he was talking to the media. He said, "Listen, the second year is when I expect the most improvement from the defense. And if you're the Detroit Lions, the defense was an issue last year, so you have to get better on that front. The linebacking core and the secondary are my main issues with the defense. There's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of things that can go right, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong. And if they go wrong, it could really send an end to kind of the the year, because if the secondary isn't good or the linebacking core isn't good, that'll really reflect in your record that you end up with. When you look at the defensive line, this is an overhauled unit. Josh Pascal obviously is going to start on the pup list. That's not shocking. Romeo Okwara will start on the pup list. That's not shocking. But if you look at what Brad Holmes did to supply talent to the defensive line, look no further than Aiden Hutchinson, the second overall pick from Michigan. He's a guy who can get in. He's a guy who's going to be an instant impact player. And if you ask me, him and Charles Harris can really wreak havoc. But here's the issue. Here's the X factor to all of this. Okay. Now, Michael Brockers is a leader in the locker room. He's been a very, very big leader in the locker room. If you listen to the Tim Twentyman podcast with him, it was very insightful. There was a lot of things that he said that I really valued as a guy who is he's a leader in the locker room. He's the oldest guy in the locker room, so people look up to him. And the one thing that you look for is he mentioned one player, and that's Eline Mcneil. If Eline Mcneil takes the next step up, that defensive line will be a hell of a lot harder to play against, because when you got a guy who's that athletic, that big, you could present some major problems for the offense. They're not going to be able to double team everybody. They can't double team Hutch. They can't double team Harris, and they can't double team McNeil, because that's going to leave someone wide open to hit the quarterback. So Eline Mcneil is going to be my major focus this year, because I think in training camp he's going to show out. He's going to show that he's a better player than he was last year. I think he's going to be taking the step forward. Now you have to hope that Levi Onwuzurike takes the next step. Levi Onwuzurike wasn't really good, but last year I can tell you right now he played better than I thought. He made some good pass moves, and then he would look really, really bad with trying to shed a block. It was just kind of a rookie kind of year for him. So I'm looking for him to take this next step up. If Eline Mcneil and Levi Onwuzurike take the next step up, you're looking at a defense that could be really, really good on the defensive line. And obviously, everything starts with the defensive line. And if the defensive line is any good, it can make the secondary better. It can make the linebacking core look better. And if you're really realistic, the defensive line is probably going to be the strength of this year. I mean, you look at the linebacker core. Can you look at the linebacker core and say this is a strength of the Detroit Lions defense? No. Do you look at the secondary and say this could be a strength of the Detroit Lions defense? I'm sure you could look at it and say there's potential that it could be a strength, but I don't think it's going to be a strength. So that's going to be the issue for the Detroit Lions defense. Obviously, you're looking for Eline Mcneil and Levi Onwuzurike to take the next step up. You're looking for rookies like Malcolm Rodriguez to make kind of a suitable impact. But if I'm the Detroit Lions, I'm kind of looking at what can my defensive line do, and what can they kind of keep my secondary from looking a little bit ragged. Obviously, the linebacking core is a little bit different. They're gonna need some talent that comes in and plays at a high level, and that's going to be the issue. Who it's going to be, what it's going to be. Maybe it's a Chris Board. Maybe Gerard Davis saves the day, but I wouldn't count on that. You got to hope that Malcolm Rodriguez and Derek Barnes take the next step up. Maybe an Anthony Pittman, a James Houston. These are guys who could take the next step up. When you look at the Detroit Lions defense, they have one of the best coordinators that you could hope for in Mr. Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn's a fantastic defensive coordinator, and I think that he will do well with the defense. Obviously, when you look at the Detroit Lions, there's a lot of things that could go right, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong. And we are going to, we're going to go through it the whole season. I'm going to do some, I'm going to do some YouTube things with the game film and all that stuff. So subscribe to our YouTube page, Between the Whistles Detroit, and subscribe to this podcast. We will keep you in tune with everything happening with the Detroit Lions, and we will keep you in tune with everything that happens from here on out. Obviously, the last thing I want to say, I wouldn't take everything into account with preseason. Remember, this is kind of a period where it's a vanilla period, so don't take everything as a kind of preseason means everything. A lot of vanilla play happens in preseason, so just keep that in mind. This is Detroit. This is Kings of the Jungle, a Detroit Lions podcast. We will see you in the next segment. That will be a bonus segment.